And welcome to the HS Game Time Live Blitz. I'm Pep Fernandez, and hopefully you remember this guy. Kyle, nice to have you back.
I know, it's been a while. We had the holidays, and we had New Year's, then last Wednesday I was out chasing a story, actually. So, yeah, it feels kind of strange being back in, but it's good to be back, Pep.
Yeah. Now, on New Year's, I was flying solo. I did the show by myself, but last week, David Zink, our sports editor, was supposed to do the show. Couldn't do it. So Chris Erickley was pinch hitting for David Zink, who was pinch hitting for you. So
the backup to the backup.
Yeah.
Third string quarterback.
It was like bullpen catcher or somebody out here. But we're glad to have you back, KG. We've got a lot to talk about here. A lot of those high school football postseason awards and all-star games are taking place. We'll get to that. We're also going to talk some high school basketball, a lot of the CIF and also our HS Game Time rankings we're going to touch on a little bit. Soccer as well. And a little treat at the end with Domingo Ayala. Baseball.
One of my personal favorites.
You know what? His coaching may be against the grain. Yeah, unorthodox, but you'll laugh, so that's what's important. But we're going to start with wrestling. We haven't talked a lot about wrestling, but it's really heating up now. We just had the Riverside County Championships at Arlington High School this past weekend, and now we have the battle for the belt coming up at Temecula Valley. I'm some video right now, Kyle, from last year's battle for the belt. We had 4 locals in the finals, including the great Derek Jones from Bloomington High School. He did not win a battle for the belt championship, but he did win state. And the big news this week is Derek Jones will not be competing his senior season because he recently had back surgery to repair some herniated discs. So Derek will not have a chance to defend his state title at 220 pounds.
You know, it's truly a shame. We saw it last year. He really established himself as one of the best wrestlers in the state in any weight class, then obviously in his own weight class, the very best. He also got Bloomington on the map. I mean, Bloomington's a small school program that hadn't had a lot of history, not a lot of facilities. They went up and had a great showing, and really on the strength of what Derek Jones was able to do for that team, they're ranked 14th in the state right now. I mean, what he did last year for that team is still paying off this year. We'll see how Bloomington can hold up without their star wrestler, because there is some depth there.
Yes.
I think it might be a mistake to count them out. Like I mentioned, they're ranked 14th in the state going into this weekend. We'll see just how well they can hold up without Derek. And they haven't had him all year, so it's not like it'll be anything new.
If we rewind a little bit, he actually went out for the football team. He kind of, played through the pain a little bit, but decided to finally shut it down after a couple games. And he was hoping to rest up and not need surgery for, to stay healthy for the wrestling season. But sometimes you just gotta, shut it down, get the surgery, and he's also, got a long road in front of him in terms of college, and he wants to go beyond. I mean, Olympics, the sky's the limit for Derek Jones.
Everyone wants to be able to compete their senior season of high school. There's something special, about that homegrown bond with your teammates and your coaches. But at the same time, when you have more things ahead of you, you definitely don't want to risk anything.
We're also looking at video of Roosevelt's Noor Abdul-Latif. He also reached the Battle for the Belt finals last year. He's back for Roosevelt. He could be a guy to watch in the heavyweight division as well. And what's cool at Battle for the Belt, they turn out all the lights. They've got the spotlight like a lot of high schools do it. And they also have, I don't know, have you been to one yet?
I haven't, no.
Well, they do like cartoon characters. Okay. So you come out and, they have like a silhouette of the wrestler behind the screen, and they come out and everyone's screaming and they're playing rock music, and they got like let's say for example, if your school's the Cowboys, they'll have like a cowboy body with a Kyle Glaser head on top of it. So they do a great show there. The kids love it, and if you win, you don't get like a little medal, you get an actual WWF or whatever, WWE, is that what the kids call it now, championship belt.
This really is one of the coolest events you'll see in any sport. I mean, I've mentioned I've never been to it, but everyone hears about the Battle of the Belt, and you look at the roster of teams coming. 5 of the top 10 teams in the state are going to be there. Literally dozens of state qualifiers and a couple dozen state medalists from last year. You've got teams coming from 8 different CIF sections, 3 different states. I mean, this is really an elite high school event in any sport. You can argue the premier high school event that's held in the Inland Empire in any sport.
Well attended, and as I said, they put on a great show. Now on Thursday night, tomorrow night, there's a huge duel in the Big 8 League as Santiago is taking on King. The winner of this one likely your Big 8 League champion. Now last night on Tuesday night, Santiago took on my Bakersfield Drillers, and Bakersfield beat them head-to-head. It was tied 31-31, but it went to matches one, and that's where the Drillers got the Sharks.
You know, Santiago right now is the highest-ranked team among inland area teams, ranked 7th in the state. And we're going to see, King is not going to be an easy battle. We saw King have a great match against Centennial earlier this year. Centennial is always a good program. You mentioned losing to Bakersfield. Well, Bakersfield's an incredible program. This is a tough stretch. I mean, facing, you know, King and Bakersfield 2 and 3 days, and they've got, you know, more ahead of them. Santiago, we're going to find out a little bit about their depth. We're going to find out about their discipline, their health, and then maybe get some hints as to how they can perform come CIF, come Masters, and eventually the state playoffs. I think that's the ultimate goal for them, state championships, I should say.
And last year, one of our co-wrestlers of the year, Christian Pagdalao, he has since graduated, but he was a Santiago Shark. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Last year's Santiago versus Centennial duel, outside of high school football, was the most well-attended, most electric atmosphere I'd been at for any high school sport, basketball, baseball. I mean, it was crazy in there. And Santiago has a big gym, and it was filled, standing room only. I mean, the place was packed and going nuts.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, wrestling get a lot of hardcore fans, and the Inland Empire, really all the way from Temecula up to the high desert, you have some very, very good programs. I think you could argue that top to bottom throughout the entirety of the inland area, wrestling is the deepest, most talented sport. I think that argument could very well be made.
You could say wrestling, maybe softball.
Baseball's
I think one, two. Yeah, baseball as well.
Even baseball, I think, doesn't have the depth of talent. You know, when you get up to the high desert, it's not the same level of talent as you see the wrestlers have.
Now, King head coach Harlan Kistler, kind of echoing what you said, that the Inland Empire and the Central Valley of California, the two hotbeds for wrestling in the state. And Harlan Kistler, the longtime head coach for King, he won a state title as a wrestler when he went to Notre Dame. Everyone goes back to Notre Dame somehow. There's
Notre Dame grads are secretly ruled at least the Inland Empire.
It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like, everyone knows somebody from Notre Dame, and they're very well-to-do in our community.
They're a power broker. They're not like a guy who's just chilling. They're someone important.
No, they're very important in our community. So Harlan Kistler wrestled at Notre Dame, won a state title, went to a little place called Iowa to wrestle.
No big deal.
Yeah, Hawkeye's pretty good if you follow wrestling at the collegiate level. So Harlan had a son. His son Harlan's son, wrestled last year for King, did a great job. Now he's got Nolan, and Nolan now won a Riverside County championship this past weekend at 160 pounds. And not only is he following his dad's footsteps on the wrestling mat, but Nolan was telling me he wants to follow his dad's footsteps as well, being a lawyer. His dad's a lawyer, wants to go into the law practice. So we talked to Harlan and Nolan about seeing each other, I guess, 24/7, because they're around each other all the time between following his dad and interning with the law practice, as well as being his wrestling coach at King High School. So let's hear from Harlan and Nolan about their unique relationship on and off the mat.
I'm a coach all the time. What I do is I can't coach my kids. I just coach the team, and everything my kids need will trickle down to them. I pretty much ignore my own son, and he's got to pick it up from his teammates and the assistant coaches, and he's not doing too shabby. He won the National Freak Fest, and he's ranked in the top 3 in state currently. So if you pick up the playbook and you have the passion for the sport, everybody on the King team can be a CIF champ. Everybody can make it to state. It's the passion that makes the difference. It's that drive, the grit.
Even at the house, like all he talks about is wrestling, but I think it's good because it keeps my mind always thinking about wrestling, always thinking about how I can improve, and just keep working and getting better in the sport. And I'm blessed to have a dad who was an amazing wrestler in college, and I love it, honestly.
So if you're interning with him and wrestling with him, I mean, you're going to be with your dad 24/7, right?
Yeah. There was a part of me that wanted to get away from my dad, but a huge part of me that he's been my mentor since I was 8 years old, and he's always been there by my side, and I don't know if I could do it without him.
So there's Nolan and Harlan Kistler, and we were talking about a tough stretch for Santiago. King had the Riverside County Championships. Then they got Santiago on Thursday night. Then, of course, the battle for the belt this weekend. So it's another tough stretch for the Wolves as well.
I mean, wrestling is one of the most physically draining sports there is, and anytime you're talking about 2 or 3, whether it's a dual meet or a tournament, I mean, it's such a strain on your body. This is where the depth really, really plays in for wrestling teams.
And unfortunately for King, Coach was saying they don't have any bigs. I mean, they're strong. they've got about 10 or 11 guys that are really strong, but they're just lacking those big guys. So maybe you football players, if you're watching, help Coach Harlan out.
Get some linemen out there.
You know what? They had a huge line. They were strong at King on the line. So maybe, I mean, that could help as well. You know, if you wrestle, translates to the football field as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
Speaking of football, all these CIF postseason awards have been coming out, and of course our inland area guys cleaning up, because we had the Inland Division champ, Central Division champ, Eastern Division champion, as well as the East Valley Division champion. And in the Inland Division, the Player of the Year is Trey Watson. I think most people would go with that. The Defensive Player of the Year, though, they went with Jalen Johnson, which hard to argue against, but we here at the HS Game Time staff, we went with Buzzy Bolton.
You know, it's one of those things where a lot of times CIF awards, they really just kind of give it to whatever team wins the division.
Yeah.
We see that with almost every sport. They don't really take into account, individual, accolades or individual skills. There's no question Jalen Johnson's an excellent football player. I think if you talk to people around, Curtis Bolton, almost unanimously. He was a unanimous pick on our end, as well as some of the scouts and the recruiters. So, at the same time, look, one got HS Game Time Defensive Player of the Year, one got CIF Defensive Player of the Year. There's still two incredible football players, but I think anytime you get the CIF awards, whether it's Coach of the Year, Players of the Year, once again in any sport, you do have to take it with a grain of salt, because they pretty much say, okay, who's the best player on the team that won the title, and give it to them.
That's the formula.
Yeah, so it's not as analytical, I should say.
And with that said, when you look at the Central Division, we're looking at some video. We just saw Lima High Hefo in the Central, and we're seeing Brett Hollingsworth, the quarterback for Citrus Hill in the Eastern Division, two CIF champions, players from those teams.
Yeah, and the defensive side as well. Yeah, it's Taki and Zach Kupka. So, I mean, it really is just that case. But I want to talk about Brett Hollingsworth for a second. This was a guy who, at King really struggled. I mean, did not put up good numbers. There were, as a team, as an individual, however you want to measure it, it just wasn't, it was not a good fit. Goes to Citrus Hill, and yes, it's down a couple divisions. The league play obviously is nowhere near as strong. We get that, but at the same time, I think the people who saw him the previous 2 years and saw him this year saw a totally different quarterback. That's a testament to the coaching staff. It's a testament to Brett. Testament to all the forces in his life where he really stepped it up. And the Eastern Division, it's not a bad division. It's not a top tier division, but you have to be good, smart, strong, in shape to win that league and that division, and then as dominantly as Citrus Hill did those last two games, says something.
And you know what? If you look back to the previous season, Citrus Hill had a loaded senior class, D1 guys all over the place, and all those guys graduated. A lot of question marks at Citrus Hill. Brett Hollingsworth, one of those question marks. They weren't exactly sure what they were getting, but he blossomed at Citrus Hill and had a huge monster season for the Hawks.
Very much so. I think if you go down the list and look at, okay, who are the guys that were our CIF Southern Section Players of the Year, he's probably the guy that you would have said was least likely at the beginning of the year. Taki and Hefo, even DJ Wright down at Rupa Hills.
Absolutely.
Everyone knew he was a star at that level. People might have thought, okay, Robert Weber, but if you said Trey Watson was going to win it, be like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I think Brett Hollingsworth is really the one that, from week 0 to now, people would have been surprised to hear it, but he deserved it. There really was not anyone else in that division I think you can make an argument for. It was him pretty clearly.
And I think even throughout the season, we talked about this. Citrus Hill was picking up some wins. We said, wow, Brett Hollingsworth is really the go-to guy. I mean, he was making it happen for the Hawks.
Week 0 against Riverside Poly was a perfect example of that. The rest of the team was struggling to get its feet under it. He led them to victory, and, that was the story for a lot of the season. There was a lot of talent on that team, but there's no question that Hollingsworth was the cog that made it go from start to finish.
So once again, Brett Hollingsworth, your MVP in the Eastern Division, Zach Kupka, the Defensive Player of the Year in the Central, it was Lima High Hefo, and Sione Taki was the Defensive Player of the Year. The Inland, Trey Watson, and Jalen Johnson was the D of the Year. And in the East Valley Division, DJ Wright, the quarterback, who's only a junior, so we'll see him again as Rupa Hills makes the jump now to the Eastern Division next season. Now, speaking of Lima High Hefo, he earned Most Valuable Player honors at the Inland Empire All-Star Classic, which they won. Dramatic finish in overtime. What was your assessment been seeing all the guys. I mean, there was about 3 guys, but I want to hear your analysis first. But there was about 3 guys in that All-Star game that really stood out for me.
Well, I hadn't gotten a chance to see Liam Haihifo this year, and I was very impressed. Both a speedy runner and tough runner. I knew he was a bigger guy. I didn't realize how fast he was. He's got that good balance of a guy who can go in between the tackles, but can also break it outside. He showed some toughness near the goal line. Another guy that really stood out for me was another Sun Belt League guy, Ryan Laverdiere. He made some tackles in space, including against guys like Tahir Rashid Mills, who can absolutely fly. He did everything well. He, dropped back and pass coverage well. He made some nice plays against the run, one-on-one, gang tackling, you name it. And then the last guy, I think Tahir Rashid Mills at San Gorgonio showed something. Now, while a lot of the All-Stars, if you will, didn't show up, the best players from each county, Riverside County defensive side actually had most of their best players. Yeah. Bolton was there, Mashik was there, Taki was there. They really did bring, a lot of their best guys. And Tahir Mills lit him up. I mean, through the air, on the ground. He made that bad decision to throw that pass in the that was intercepted by Taki in overtime. Mm-hmm. But he took a San Bernardino team that was missing literally every one of its D1 players except for Brandon Scott on the offensive side. I mean, he did not have anywhere near the weapons that the Riverside team had.
Yet he kept a minute.
And he kept a minute. If you look at the fact it was 28-28 after regulation, he played almost every snap, and every scoring drive he played a significant role in. Riverside was rotating their quarterbacks out every series. Rashid Mills played all but 2 series. I mean, his coach, Ron Garinger, literally said...
His coach, literally, at San G as well.
You win this game without Eric Brown, without Maurice McKnight, without any of the Ranch Cucamonga guys, without any of Upland's best players.
Yeah.
I mean, he had, a lot of number 2s and number 3s, because like I said, I think of the 15, 16 D1 recruits out of San Bernardino, 2 showed up. So, I mean, Tahir Rashid Mills, against a very good, loaded Riverside defense, held his own. And I think proved, that was the question all year. Is okay, you see the skills. How would this translate? To me, there's no question. He'd be a starter and probably a league MVP in the Sun Belt League or any of the other leagues down there. And then in the Inland Division, I think he would start for most of the teams in the Inland Division. Would he shine at a Vista or a Centennial? Maybe not, probably not. But at I don't know, pick almost any other school in that division, I think he does just fine.
Now, I spoke with Coach Garinger briefly over the phone, and he was saying he was trying to make a case for Rashid Mills to be the most valuable player despite the loss by San Bernardino County. And I told him, you could make a case. I mean, he really was probably the most valuable player in this game.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. But at the end of the day, I actually think, Lima Haihifo, how's this? Toward the end there, really got them close. He had a touchdown. He did have a fumble, so you could say, okay, he lost a turnover, Rashid Mills lost a turnover. But either way, these are 2 excellent players in a tough, grinded-out game. And this was a case where I remember you and I discussed this. It really was going to be who wins. If Riverside wins, give it to Hifo. If San Bernardino wins, give it to Rashid Mills. And I don't think you could have made an argument against one that was particularly strong. They both had a great game.
Now, the other guy you pointed out who had a big game, Laverdiere from Elsinore, the guy who was, because I'm behind the video camera, so I'm following the ball on each play. The guy who was always in my highlights, just always had a nose for the ball, was Jacob Zinda from Temescal Canyon.
Yeah.
He was all over the place.
Another Sun Belt League guy. I mean, definitely a really good day for them. I also want to put Kavan Himes at Rancho Verde. I felt like a lot of times was in there making a tackle in the backfield. I mean, him and Taki actually lined up on offense a few times as an extra tight end and a fullback. So it's kind of cool to see them both go both ways.
All right, so on Saturday night, I actually put some video highlights from the game, but to make the big world debut here, I put extended highlights from the game. So after the BLITZ show, we'll put them on the website. But let's check out the highlights from the 29th Annual Sport Foundation Inland Empire All-Star Classic from this past Saturday.
Welcome to the Inland Empire All-Star Classic. Here's Pet with the highlights.
Thank you, ladies, and welcome to the Sport Foundation's 29th Annual Inland Empire All-Star Classic at Corona High School as the top seniors from Riverside County battle the best from San Bernardino County. Here's how this one got started, with Jim Wynn from the Sport Foundation presenting a special autographed football to Santiago's Ryan Ricard. The ball is for Ricard's teammate at Santiago, Jordan Walker, who was injured during the Sharks playoff game against Upland. So let's go to the highlights. The San Bernardino All-Stars get it cracking. Quarterback Tahir Rashid Mills from San Gorgonio airs it out to Yucaipa's Brandon Scott. This pass is on the money. Straight cash, homie. Scott with a nice move to get into the end zone, and San Bernardino County goes up 7-zip. The Riverside All-Stars strike back. Roosevelt quarterback Joseph Muriel hits West Valley's Elijah Brown. What can Brown do for you? 7-7, we're all tied up. But look out, here comes San G's Rashid Mills. You know how he rolls. Rashid Mills rolls off a big run for Team San Bernardino. Later on that same drive, now facing 4th and goal, San Bernardino retakes the lead. Carter's Ben Fitzpatrick finds the paint and makes it 14-7. Brent Bohm, the Paloma Valley quarterback, now in for Riverside County, and Bebo hits Heritage running back Lima High Hefo for the big gain. And when there's a Hefo, there's a way. Now it's the Green-Eyed Dragon, the Rancho Verdes, Keyshawn Slaughter right up the gut, and we're all tied again 14-14. The defense also came to play. Arlington's Lovell Thomas breaks up the pass. Lovey, you could have had a pick six. The Riverside All-Stars back in business later in the second quarter. Muriel hooks up with Roosevelt teammate Anthony Spencer for the big pass play. Riverside County takes its first lead of the game when Hefo hammers in the touchdown. The Riverside All-Stars go up 21-14. Riverside County hoping to keep that lead. Heritage's Sione Taki with a big play on defense. Now that's what I'm talking about. Then it's North's Chris Carter coming up big time with the big stop for a loss. And how about some special plays on special teams? San Jacinto's Malik Kimbrough with a big return, and he's going to hurdle a defender. No points, though, on the ensuing drive for Riverside County. Then it's Ramona's Lorenzo Cabrera punting. Eisenhower's Nigel Lee fields it. Lee's a great player, but on this play, the model, Matthew Palmer and Sione Taki from Heritage, are quick to pin the San Bernardino All-Stars near their own goal. Later, San Bernardino County breaks through one more time before the half. Rashid Mills calls his own number. Get in there! So we head into the half all even at 21. Third quarter, Notre Dame's Paul Radvica under center. Pauly Guaps hits Ramona's Lorenzo Cabrera, who's playing his first year of high school football, and he was named an All-Star. Have I ever mentioned I discovered him? Third quarter, San Bernardino with the ball. Rialto's Giovanni Morgan gets the carry, but Elsinore's Ryan Laverdiere is there for the tackle. Next San Bernardino drive, Kings, Andrew Cloud, and Linfield Christian's Dallas House. They combine on the sack for Riverside County. Still tied at 21 in the fourth quarter now when Serrano's Grant Kuntz forces the turnover, and Kuntz recovers for the San Bernardino All-Stars. So here comes San Bernardino County once again. Rashid Mills hits Morgan for the big gain. Nice pass there, and that leads to this. Etawanda's to Corey Spencer dashes in for the touchdown, and San Bernardino takes the lead 28-21. Late in the fourth now, Riverside County really mixing it up. Keyshawn Slaughter in at quarterback, and no line in front of him, but still picks up the big gain. The San Bernardino lead would not be safe. Later in the fourth, Muriel scores on the keeper, so we're tied at 28 and headed to overtime. In OT, San Bernardino County with the ball first, but the pass is picked off by Taki. So Riverside County takes over, and it would be game over when Chaparral's John Barron boots the game-winning field goal. An incredible game with an incredible finish. Riverside County wins the Sport Foundation Inland Empire All-Star Classic for the fourth year in a row. 31-28, the final in overtime. Lima High Hefo from Heritage is your game's most valuable player.
So for the fourth year in a row, Riverside County is your Inland Empire All-Star Classic champion. Good crowd out there and great game.
Oh yeah, you know, the last couple of games have been a blowout Riverside's way. I believe they'd outscored San Bernardino 61-2 in their last two All-Star games, so it was nice to see a close game. Particularly, like I said, San Bernardino did not get most of its Division I commits or its top performers out there. So if they had gotten them out there, it would have been interesting. And then on the flip side, you know, Colton Gerhardt, Barry Ware, Robert Weber, Trey Watson.
Some of these other big names.
You know, especially on the line for Riverside, Krebs and Talamavau, you know, they didn't show up. So it'd been interesting to see, you know, which team would have come out on top if it really, you know, was kind of the best of the best. But considering San Bernardino was missing more guys than Riverside was, might be inclined to think San Bernardino would have had a shot if they had gotten just a couple of those really elite players.
Yeah, a lot of people were tweeting that even in the loss, San Bernardino earned some respect because a lot of people, based on the last couple of years, were saying, San Bernardino County's not going to hang with this Riverside County team, and they turned a lot of heads in that game.
Yeah, they definitely did.
All right, also at the Inland Empire All-Star Classic, I ran into Jordan Campbell, former Norco High School star. He went to USC, ended up at New Mexico Highlands in Division II. He signed with the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL, went to camp with them, played in some preseason games, didn't stick with them though, but he now signed with Kansas City, the Chiefs, this past week. And Kyle, here's what he told me, that he was a running back and then he went to linebacker at the college level. He's going to Kansas City as both. So he's going to go there, play some fullback, running back, as well as linebacker, and just trying to earn a spot on that 53-man roster, which, I mean, any way to see the field, right?
Exactly. We saw Alan Bradford, formerly of Colton and USC.
Absolutely.
Seahawks, do a little bit of that. We'll see, every now and then. We actually saw the Bengals, Demita Pico was playing defensive tackle, but on goal line situations would come in as a fullback. And we've seen a couple guys do it. Mike Vrabel did it back in the day for the Patriots. He'd go in on offense near the goal line. So, yeah, I mean, whatever you got to do to get on the field.
Jordan Campbell, a big, strong kid, excited to be a Kansas City Chief, and we caught up with him at the ball game.
Green Bay, the Browns, the Raiders, Kansas City. Kansas City just signed me on the spot. They like me. They like me pre-draft. They called me in the 6th round. Really wanted me to go there, but I was really stuck on Cincinnati. I had Vontaze and Maluga and all my buddies text me, let me know that the coaches liked my film, and thought that would be the best situation for me going into a locker room where I already knew the vets, and already played with 2 of the 3 linebackers that they had on the squad. Like I said, unfortunately, they only ended up keeping 5 linebackers, but Kansas City, they really like me, and it's just a really good fit. So I went out there, met the GM, Andy Reid, and all the guys, put on a really good show for them in the workout, and they signed that day.
So you signed with Kansas City on a Friday night. You already got a KC hat on, right? You're excited, man.
Before I left the building, they said, hey, you're part of the family now. So I threw on the KC hat and made it official.
So I asked Jordan, he had a Kansas City Chiefs hat on. I said, what, you signed with the team, you ran out and got a hat right away. And he's like, oh no, he's like, before I left, they said, you're part of the family now. So here's your parting gift for signing with us. So nice. He was, very excited to be a Chief.
Roster spot and a free hat, can't beat it.
All right, the All-Star postseason almost over for high school football, still a couple more. And one right here in our backyard, the Canyon Coast Classic for the 4th year in a row. This year it's being played here in Southern California, back at RCC on Monday, a 1 o'clock kickoff there. And some holdovers from the Inland Empire All-Star Classic playing in this one, and some new guys as well.
Yeah, you're going to see guys like Joseph Muriel, Michael Stewart, Elijah Brown, some of the really good players from the greater Riverside area. But we're also going to see some guys from outside the Inland Empire come into play that are very highly touted. Cammy Delp, an offensive guard over at Diamond Ranch in Pomona, Arizona State commit. He's going to play for SoCal. Mission Viejo sending a couple guys, always a strong program. Los Alamitos is sending a couple guys. So it's going to be a nice mix. We'll see some really talented guys on the coast, some really talented Division I guys, and just inland area guys in general. It's a nice mix. The Arizona roster is interesting. I was taking a look through it. They have 3 guys on the offensive line who are 3-star recruits, Division I caliber guys. I counted 8 2-star recruits among their running backs and wide receivers. So, I mean, they're bringing bigs, they're bringing playmakers, 2 all-state selections on the defensive side of the football, D-end and linebacker. The Arizona squad's really bringing some of their best, and it'll be really interesting to see how it all fares. I believe last year Arizona won 26-6.
That's right.
So Riverside. Southern California, thinking big here, is really going to have to step up its game to avenge that loss. On paper, Arizona has more D1 commits, but just kind of, I think you could say they look like the better team. Yeah. But we'll see.
San Jacinto's Bill Powell will coach the Southern California team. I'll give a shout out to Jordan Silva from Murrieta Valley, because that's Coach Vinny Fazio's guy. He'll be in this game. And John Barron, the kicker from Chaparral, who kicked the game winner in the IE Classic. Maybe he'll do the same on Monday at RCC.
Who knows? I think San Diego State fans are very excited about this kid. We saw him kick a 50-yarder in the All-Star game.
That was bizarre.
Off the board, and then they made him re-kick it. He didn't quite get the second one, but Pressure kicked it. San Diego State basically stopped trying extra points after September this year because their special teams was so bad. They literally didn't have anyone who could make a 15 or 17-yarder. So I think they're all hoping that John Barron can be the savior.
He probably can't get there soon enough for the Aztecs to remedy those problems on special teams.
Yep.
So yeah, it was 26-6. We're looking at some of that video from last season. Now, Kyle, you went to college in Arizona. I mean, is it fair to say that if you're a high school football player in Arizona, you'd like to get a shot at Southern California's best? Because when you think of these areas of the country that have really good high school football, I think of Southern California, Texas, and Florida. Those are the three areas that jump out to me, at least.
And they are. Those are still the best. But I've been telling everyone that's listening, Arizona is climbing up. If you look at the past 10 years, the number of Arizona guys who have gone and made an impact at the USCs of the world, the Texases of the world, the Auburns of the world even, and guys that are now making their way into the NFL. I think Arizona is probably the fastest climbing state in terms of overall talent, and I think for them to be able to come out here and showcase themselves against, we mentioned some very good players from Southern California. We've got a couple of guys going to places like Cal in this game and San Diego State. It's going to be very good. I think the Arizona guys are definitely going to come out here with a chip on their shoulder, wanting to show again they're better than the Southern California kids. So I think the SoCal team is definitely going to have to be on guard.
And what's cool as well is like last year, this year, again, Dick Bruick, legendary coach in this area, is involved in this game. Kurt Bruick was one of the coaches for the SoCal All-Stars last season. So that's Monday, Martin Luther King holiday, 1 o'clock kickoff at RCC. So if you're in town, you don't have school, head on out there and check out some great high school football. And at least, I think it's the last one on my radar, at least, for high school football All-Star games.
There's a West Coast Bowl that's being played at Redondo Union on January 26th, that Sunday. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it. The Under Armour All-American game's over. The Army All-American game is over.
The Semper Fidelis game.
Semper Fidelis game, exactly. We're really coming down to the end here.
All right. Once again, we got to thank Adrenaline Athletic Training for being our fine sponsor all season long. We really appreciate it. And we're here live in the HS Game Time studio for our weekly Blitz show. Now we're going to make the switch to high school basketball. And you saw a good one last night with the Rancho Verde taking on North. And, the Huskies lost some dominant big men from last season's team, but they're still on a roll now.
Christian Gray, a transfer from Santiago, has been a huge addition up front. And Isaiah Clark, everyone said, hey, he's a really good player who just lost minutes behind Dorian Butler and Marcus Ball last year. He's come out and shown himself to be a pretty good guy. I mean, those are, 6'5" and 6'7", I believe, in the middle. We know about Deshaun Taylor. We know about Dikembe Martin. Riverside North is a very well-balanced team. Most recent CIF polls contained an open division playoff watch list. They made the cut.
Which is the best of the best, regardless of what division you're in.
Right, regardless of your enrollment, your division. I mean, this is, let's find the best teams in Southern California and make them play each other. North and Corona Centennial were the only two local teams in there. So clearly, as far as the section is concerned, and I think as a lot of neutral observers are concerned, North is in that same caliber of class as some of those elite teams. We'll see how they keep going. Rancho Verde, I think, showed something last night. They lost some key players to transfer. For them to have North, only up 41-38 after 3 quarters, that shows you something, that Rancho Verde can hang with the really, really good teams. Now, they didn't quite finish, but they beat Great Oak. They beat Fresno Bullard, 2-time CIF Central Section champion. Rancho Verde, I think some people might have written off, but they're for real. Trey Nottingham, Jalen Hall. I wouldn't be surprised to see them once again have a nice run in the CIF playoffs and then again make a run into the state playoffs. I was there last year where they took Crenshaw to the buzzer at Crenshaw, which is one of the most difficult places to play.
Yep.
We'll see, but I think the Mustangs are for real.
Now, you saw, as you mentioned, Dikembe Martin and Deshaun Taylor for North. Maybe with the Centennial's backcourt, is there another, guard combo in this area better than North and Centennial, the two teams that you mentioned that are being watched in this open division for the playoffs?
Probably not. I mean, you could argue those are two of the top 10 backcourts maybe in the section. You talk about guard play and how important it is, controlling the tempo. And these are 4 guards. They're not just scorers, or they're not just good at one thing. These are guys who could do everything. You'll see Bearfield and Martin and Taylor and all of them get in there, dirty for a rebound, flying on the floor, giving their effort. All of them are highly touted, but none of them are divas. They do what they need to do to win the game for their team, whether it's, Bearfield taking the big shot to beat Chino Hills, or Martin, dishing out to someone on the wing for a big game winner. that's what makes these guys so great, is they're all-around guards. They're not guys who just, like to run up and down the floor and take all the shots to themselves.
All right, so North, right now, #1 in Division 1A, according to the CIF polls. King, #4 in that division. Temecula Valley, 5, and Paris comes in at #9. Now, in Division 1AA, that's where Centennial's at. They check in at #4 right now. There's a lot of good teams in 1AA, and Centennial's one of them.
Yeah, it's tough when you have Mater Dei and Etiwanda and Loyola. I mean, Division 1AA in the CIF Southern section is probably one of the 10 best high school basketball sections in the entire country.
Yeah.
So anytime you're talking about being a top 5 or 6 team in that section, you're really saying you're a top 50 team in the country, in my opinion. So I think for Centennial, don't worry about whether or not you're #1 in that division. Just the fact that you're top 4 in that division tells you you're elite. Most of the state rankings have them 5th or 6th in the entire state. We'll see if they can break that barrier and maybe beat a Loyola or an Etiwanda, who they already lost to, or maybe even mighty Mater Dei. You never know.
Also in 1AA, Roosevelt #10, Corona 11, and the Rancho Verde checks in at #15. So those are the latest CIF basketball polls, and of course a lot of league games.
4 of the 6 Big 8 league teams are in the top 10 or top 11 in 1AA and 1A. That's crazy. I mean, the Big 8's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year.
Absolutely no easy games in the Big 8 every night.
And tonight's the league opener. King Corona is matchup #1. That's a doozy to watch, so we'll see how it all shakes out.
All right, Kyle, I'm going to put you on the spot and see how much you know about girls basketball now. We talked a little bit about Canyon Springs last week. We saw them make that great run. They won a CIF title at the buzzer. They went all the way to the Southern California Championship game. Gail Hale has her Cougars playing some good basketball as well. I don't have the rankings in front of me, but Canyon Springs off to a great start. You also have to talk about Santiago as well.
Santiago, is the #1 team in our HS Game Time top 10. Right now, there are 5 local girls basketball teams that made the Open Division watch list, if you will. And believe it or not, the top-ranked team, according to Cal High Sports, is actually Great Oak. They cracked the rankings at #18 in the state this year. So you're looking at Great Oak, Cajon over in San Bernardino, Vista Murrieta, Canyon Springs, Corona, Santiago. 5 teams with a very good shot to make it to the Open Division. I mean, that's pretty prestigious right there. I think, honestly, girls basketball is deeper comparatively than boys basketball is, and that's evident by the fact that there's that many teams in Open Division contention right now.
Yeah, some of the best in Southern California. And as we mentioned, Santiago won a CIF title last year. Murrieta Valley won a CIF title. And of course, we saw Canyon Springs do that as well. And it looks like a lot of these schools, even though they lost some star players all the way around, maybe the biggest Shea Rowe at Santiago, I mean, the Sharks just keep rolling.
It helps having a 5-star recruit, Monique.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, does it?
Harris Jones, who's a college-level guard. Someone to pay attention to, a youngster, Jalen Brown down at Vista Murrieta. She's a special talent that I think we'll see grow and become one of the better players in the area. She's already established herself as one of the top underclassmen in all of high school basketball across the country. So seeing how she grows as Vista Murrieta also becomes a dominant program, I think it'll be just a lot of fun.
All right, so that's girls basketball. Let's touch on girls soccer quickly. Temecula Valley holding down that #1 spot. We talked about them last week. Up into this point, they had outscored their opponents 68-2. They picked up a 3-zip victory against Vista Murrieta last night. We're looking at some of the highlights from that match. Temecula Valley at this point, they're not going to be tested and probably until they face Great Oak. And I saw Great Oak a little bit earlier this season against Bloomington, and they're very good as well. So Temecula Valley, what's scary about them is they have some good upperclassmen. They've got a great senior in Nicole Robertson, but a lot of their scorers are freshmen and sophomore. I mean, they're going to be very good for a long time.
And that's what great programs do. They constantly bring in good players every single year, and that's, classic. Reload rather than rebuild. Assure yourself that you're not going to have a drop-off when a talented senior class leaves, and Temecula Valley girls soccer might be doing what Temecula Valley baseball is doing. Lose a great senior class, new guys step in, don't miss a beat.
It's an opportunity for someone to take their game to the next level. We're actually looking at some video of their head coach Amber Young helping Nicole Robertson off the field at the end of the game. She had some leg cramps, so she actually carried her off. Yellow beanie, yellow sweater. You can't miss her. I mean, she looks like a highlighter down there. But so they had a great win last night. Christine Maurer, a freshman. Nobody really knew what they were getting with her. She came on, made the varsity team, and she's already over 20 goals on the season, leading the way. So, and she's a freshman. So,
do you think there's any team in the area that can compete with them?
It's only going to be Great Oak, at least from what I've seen. Great Oak against Bloomington. Bloomington's a very good side, and Great Oak went on the road and picked up a very good win. And the weather wasn't that great. It was kind of adverse conditions, but they went on the road. They beat them. Great Oak is the defending league champion, but I talked to their head coach Amber Young, and she said, yeah, they are the league champion, but we're the team that's outscored their opponents. Let me do the math, 71-2 or something at this point. So and then they went to the Excalibur tournament, which is very prestigious. A lot of good teams in Southern California, and they held their own. They did very well. So a lot of teams are pointing to Temecula Valley as that team to beat. Or right now they're #1 in our HS Game Time rankings, and we're kind of eyeing that showdown with Great Oak that's coming up very soon in Southwestern League play. Now over to boys soccer. Riverside Poly kind of doing something similar. They had a great senior class last year. A couple guys with experience are back, but they're fairly young. But Coach Alex Figueroa has the Bears competing at a very high level once again with some guys who really don't have a lot of playing time, but they're getting it done.
And you know what? The Inland Valley League is always tough in almost every sport, and it's good to see the Riverside Poly. They were able to go out and have a good non-league schedule, getting really into the meat of league play here. It just seems like, just talking to the soccer folk around the area, this seems like the best chance for a local team to win a CIF Southern Section title this year. Remember last year we didn't have any local teams win a CIF Southern Section title. Now San Jacinto did win a SoCal Regional title.
That's
which,
right.
You could argue is better because it encompasses a larger area. Nonetheless, I think it'd be nice to not see 0 for 7 from a Southern Section title perspective, and it seems like Poly is the consensus frontrunner as the team that people are putting their hopes on to make sure that this area does not have another offer.
Now, Riverside Poly last year in the playoffs, if you want to go back there, they lost on the road to Santa Barbara, and head coach Figueroa said that was a game, a match they wish they could have back because, it wasn't, they gave up a garbage goal and then said, I can't believe we lost this game because we gave up such a silly goal. But they felt like it was an even match and it could have went either way, and Riverside Poly could have made that deep run, but they've got a lot of guys who are just still gaining experience. So as good as they are right now, they're just getting better. The one guy that they're really leaning on right now is Yuli De La Cal. He's a senior. He's got a lot of D1 and D2 schools after him at this point. He was their goal scorer last year, but now he's kind of that setup man, kind of setting the table for the other guys to put them in good position to score goals. And Kyle, here's Yuli's real name. Ulysses Daniel Sledak De La Cal.
I love it.
That's his real name. His dad is Spanish descent, born in Cuba, moved back to Spain, lived in Portugal. His mom is of Czech descent. So he's got a little bit of everything. He's got soccer in his background. His parents both went to Ivy League schools. So I caught up with him and asked him, what's it like being the athletic one in the family, as he calls it, with so many smart people with Ivy League educations in the De La Cal family.
No, definitely. I come from a very academic background. All my family went to Ivy Leagues, just top-notch students, all of them. I like to say I'm the athletic one of the family. I'm not as bright as everyone else, but I'm definitely a student of the game. I love how the game develops and how it works. And, I definitely plan on becoming a coach one day.
How about you? Are you an Ivy League guy, or your parents put pressure on you to end up at
I'm going to school for soccer. I'm waiting to hear back from UC San Diego if I'm cleared by admissions, and I've gotten a lot of offers so far, D1 and D2, so I'm just getting my options set up so I can make a decision later in February.
Is it more so the soccer program or the educational degree you can get, or is it a combination of the two?
It's definitely a combination of the both. I don't want to be playing on a team where we're losing every game but go to a great school, and vice versa. I don't want to play Division I, win every game, and just come out with a degree that I can't do anything with. And that's why UCSD is I'm so interested in UCSD, and that's been my dream for a few years now. Great team for Division II, made it to the final 16 of the NCAA tournament, and it's just a great school as well. So that's what I look forward to.
So head coach Alex Figueroa, affectionately called De La Cal a nerd, because he's just a student of the game. He really anticipates the play and is kind of 2 or 3 plays ahead of everyone else. And that's what makes players great, is the players who have that vision to say, okay, I'm going to be here, and I'm already thinking 2 or 3 passes down the road.
And you mentioned with the Division I and Division II offers, that's going to help them, because once you get to that level, everyone's got a ton of raw skill. Everyone, for the most part, has a work ethic. But if you have that instinct to know where to be, when to be there, have that ability to really see things before they happen, really in any sport, it gives you a leg up on the competition.
You are absolutely right. And Kyle, I'm sure you'll be completely stunned, but I was a nerd one day, long time ago. hitting the books. And
we all have an inner nerd, Pep.
in college, I was the guy on Saturday nights in the library or in my dorm room studying, so I'm with you, Yuli, hitting the books. All right, and finally, Kyle's favorite baseball player of all time, Domingo Ayala, right? He was at a camp.
Tim Salmon's my guy. But
Oh, well, Domingo's a close second. In case Domingo's watching, I don't want to hurt his feelings. He's a close second to Tim Salmon. But Domingo Ayala got hooked up with James Cordes at the Cape Cod League back in Massachusetts, and the two kind of hit it off, and Domingo Ayala was able to come to the Rev Youth Baseball Camp, which you told me about, and Domingo went out there and, you know, gave the kids some great baseball knowledge.
Yeah, definitely taught us things that I think Cordes will want to make sure they do something a little different. But, it was definitely a good time and enjoyable.
Yeah, these impressionable little kids, you probably had to preface it by saying, whatever he says, just do the opposite. But anyways, if you don't know who Domingo Ayala is, here's about a minute and a half of what he is all about.
How many of you guys heard that term, right? That's a term that... Hey, Domingo.
What's up, man?
Well, we're just talking about hitting fundamentals.
What are you talking about hitting?
Well, you know, we're talking about pulling your hands in and going the other way. We really want to go opposite field with it.
When the ball comes inside, I hit it out. I don't know if you can, but I will.
Well, maybe you want to teach them something? The fundamentals. You want to stick with fundamentals, right?
Fundamentals. SCOM stands for 4 things. All right? The first S, it stands for separate. Get your hands back, ready to go forward. The C stands for collapse. That way you get underneath the ball, you can hit the ball in the air over the fence. U stands for uppercut. And the M stands for mash. The first 3 you're gonna mash. Understand? So all together, look something like this in a comfortable stance. Separate, collapse, uppercut. Mash. What do you do after you mash?
That's pretty good. So after they hit the ball, I mean, we obviously teach coming out of the box really hard. You want your head down. You want to run as hard as you can to first base, see what happens, right?
If you hit a home run?
Well, I mean, even if you hit a home run, you want to go hard,
No,
right?
no. That just wastes energy. If you hit the home run, you got to let everyone in the park know it. What's the fast time around the bases? 14, 15 seconds for you guys? When you hit a home run, you got to take at least a minute and a half, 2 minutes around the base. The first 30 seconds is you going like this, out the chain, look in the stand, how you doing? And you start running.
So, scum hitting, that's what you do in the cage, right?
No,
definitely not. You don't?
Definitely not. I'm not a long ball guy. I've always been a doubles hitter.
My favorite part was when Rev head coach James Cordes was asking him that, you know, you go into the cage and you do situational hitting, you know, hit and run and stuff like that. And
bombs.
Cage bombs. He goes, well, he's like, I do cage bombs. I do oppo bombs, up the middle bombs, and
pull bombs.
Pull bombs, of course. I mean, pull bombs. So, yeah, so Domingo Ayala, there's a full video right now on the HS Game Time YouTube channel, so you can check that out. The guy's hilarious, and his identity remains a mystery.
Yeah, you know, you go on a well, I think no one wants to figure out what the real secret is behind him, because, you know, he has some interesting YouTube videos where he's just mashing. I mean, he's definitely got some skills out there, and that's really how this all started. A YouTube sensation, and making his way through the Inland Empire. He was at the Ukaipa baseball camp with Matt Davidson a few weeks ago, and now he's at Rev.
And another local connection is he you know, posts these videos. As you said, he's a viral star. His latest one, it was at the Moreno Valley head coach Troy Percival, and he was kind of teaching Percival what power pitching is all about. So he's the one giving the tips to a guy who, you know, won a world. Yeah, I mean,
was probably one of the most fearsome closers of the 90s.
Yeah. So he's giving him the tips. He also has a video with Clayton Kershaw where he's, you know, Kershaw, the new $215 million man. He's telling him how he should pitch. So.
Hey, whatever works. If you're willing to listen, why not?
Yeah. All right, so that's Domingo Ayala. Once again, thanks to Adrenaline Athletic Training. We really appreciate their sponsorship this season. And Kyle, welcome back. It's good to have you. It's like riding a bike. It's like you never left. We're back at it.
It's good to be back.
So once again, a lot of big wrestling and high school football events coming up with the All-Star Game on Monday. And then the basketball season really heating up now. League games, the first, you said, you know, some big 8 league games tonight as well on Wednesday night. tonight.
Yeah, a lot of the leagues start tonight. Big 8 goes tonight, CBL goes tonight, Inland Valley, they're 4 or 5 games in, but most of the leagues are beginning this week, so get ready, folks.
Yeah, so join us next Wednesday on the Blitz, because Kyle and I will surely have a lot to talk about as we move forward through the winter sports season. The Big Ticket KG, I'm Pep Fernandez, and we'll see you next time on the Blitz.